Right, this is going to be another episode of Hot Take Point Made. Obviously, we are well into 2025. In fact, if you actually look at how short some of the formats are, like, it's almost playoffs. Like, all the regions already, we're almost there. I'll still never get used to that because I'm still used to, like, you have the 8 weeks or the 9 weeks, then you have the week off. We're just right into the playoffs already. So, as you can imagine, and it certainly has been, there's been some crazy turnover, not just because of Fearless Draft, but all around the regions. So, the question is, gentlemen, if we're starting on Hot Take Point Mid, who has a hot take to start with?
I'll go first, as a tradition. Right?
No,
I will not forgive you, Thorin, for this. The research for this show involves me reading Reddit. I used to never have to go anywhere near, because now I need to know if what I'm saying is a hot take. Because I think my worldview is just normal, right? Okay, and I was actually so surprised because I went into all the match threads, the Control F, and I was looking, and mainly it was just people saying, "Oh, he's really good," or "He's back," right? But here's a hot take for you, and everyone's so quick to say it for Faker and Chovy when it happens. I think ShowMaker's the best player in the world.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, there we go. I think
He started the show with that. I mean, he's pretty good, I can't lie, but the best in the whole world, though.
I think ShowMaker right now, and cause here I'll give the context. Right. Knight is the only contender to the throne, but he's not played enough games, which is just the victim of his own format. Sure. But ShowMaker is playing proper BO5 Fearless. He's playing the format that is actually going to be played at the international tournament.
It was BO3.
Oh, sorry, BO3 format, sorry. He's playing that, so he's played Fearless.
He's played loads of games, though, yeah.
Yeah, he's played, but the other thing is he's also played actually against the elite talent.
Yeah, true.
Actually, in his region. Yeah. I think he's only not played one of the elite teams, I think. And if you go look individually in the games, he is the person abusing Fearless Draft the most. He has wins on, like, Zoe. He has wins on Tryndamere mid. And by the way, these aren't like fluky, like, oh, he's getting carried by his teammate wins. Like, he is like a bus driver player in these games. Does he have a lot of help now? Yes, but like people like Chovy and Knight had lots of help and we were quick to declare them the best players in the world. Chovy plays with probably 2 of the other best people in their role for the entirety of the year. Last year, I think ShowMaker, and it has a little bit to do with other people and being in downward spirals. I think Ruler's in a bit of a hole. I think Chovy's in a bit of a hole. I don't think any of the T1 players quite qualify at this point. For example, like possibly Keire. Again, support, I'm not really my thing. But I think ShowMaker's been fucking sick.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
ShowMaker's the best in the world?
Yeah.
That's your take?
Yeah. Mate, no one's saying it. There's absolutely, I cannot find anyone else saying it, and I think he should have the crown. So, like, everyone else is quite happy to just go, yeah, Chovy, Spring, holy shit, Ace-All carry game. Like, ShowMaker is winning his team a lot of games, and he's probably bringing the largest draft advantage that his coach is actually using to every series that he plays. And by the way, his matchup understanding and lanes and stuff is unbelievable, by the way. You can see how bad some of these LCK people are when they get pushed down onto their off picks. And he's just like hitting them with like counter picks that we can never even conceive of. He's really, really good right now.
I mean, I think, okay, because the problem is like, who's the best at the game as a whole, or who's the best right now, right? Because if you look at the current format, ShowMaker, I remember, is the guy that played 84 games, I think, to be challenger, playing 84 different champions. So he's probably one of the guys that has like the single best fundamentals about League of Legends, being able to play anything. Dope. Right? Like, people tend to forget about that. But during his dominant era, right, the Damwon era, like, he was able to pull like the craziest win rates in solo queue and stuff. He's my favorite mid laner in the world. Like, period. I really like his playstyle. Only guy that can pull a Swain competitive and play it. So at the moment, I think there is an argument for him to be the best in the world. That said, I think that his performance, if you just take the horizon, right, the time horizon up to 6 months, it's like the argument. I think it's very hard, right, to say that someone's the best of the world after 3 weeks of competition. So I'd say it's a good take, but it's a very early take, especially with the format, because I think he hasn't played Genji, right? If I do understand well. They played cross.
Oh, that was Casper Cup, never mind. You're right, they haven't played him yet.
Right, because they play cross groups. So he's played against T1 and Hanwha, right? Yep. I don't think there is like top caliber, like insane caliber mid laners for him. aside from Faker, but it's Faker first 3 weeks of the year, so nothing counts on Faker first 3 weeks of the year. So I would say I think the best mid laner in the world is probably Knight at the moment, but nobody knows. but I think it's defendable. What do you think, Thorin?
Here's the thing, obviously as a hot take, it is a good one because people will initially think it's impossible. But actually, yes, his team is undefeated. They beat T1, who, by the way, since then have looked really good. And also, they beat Hanwha Life, who was supposed to be potentially going to be the number one team in the world and all that jazz. I even think if you add in, actually that angle's pretty good, specifically in Fearless Draft. Obviously, he's a rare example of someone where actually it's probably better for him that you don't just play the same 3 or 4 mid laners. You can actually just go deep in your bag. Because actually, as you say, if someone's played a load of champions, the real OP thing is where you can also then play them as like weird matchups that no one's played before. I think that's still so underrated in League of Legends. Like people don't anticipate that, like people do play a part of the laning phase on autopilot and look at things like where the jungler interaction is. Not, you can't do that when you don't know the matchup properly and you're not quite sure, like, does he get push on this? Like, what happens when does he base for the next item? Like, that stuff matters a lot to pro players. So I will say, like, he has looked very impressive so far. The problem is, this is where being on D+, and first of all, I'll always say this, just please bring back the name Damwon. Damwon was so sick. D+, the whole time you've been called D+, you were never the best team, so D+, just sounds like, I don't know, first of all, it sounds like some shit sports gel that you use in the shower or something like that, you know, or the other joke could be another type of gel that makes another body part change size. You know, maybe Americans could use that one at a gas station. But also, you think of D+ and you don't think of like a great team, do you? You always think of like, oh, they always have like scrappy, they always have like 2.5 good players, then they always have one criminal player who's just getting away with it, Kellen, Moham, other people in the past, and then you just think, they're never going to be elite again. And in fact, as soon as Canyon left, I think everyone in their brain went, right, retcon, ShowMaker was never good. It was always Canyon. And also, who the fuck ShowMaker? Nowadays, we've got everyone. Actually, move ShowMaker aside. We're bringing Zika in. Come on, Zika. You're the new hotness, mate. Come on. And so I actually think everyone has somewhat forgotten about ShowMaker in that sense. Whereas, listen, when you're a truly great player, like an actual Hall of Fame type player, I do think, I have a saying in Counter-Strike that you should never bury them until they're actually dead. They have to actually just have no ability left at the game. Because the thing about a great player, I didn't say this is what Faker did at Worlds, is it's not that they'll ever be number one again, but they can just actually sometimes like pull out a bullshit game that almost is like, did he go in a time machine? What? How's he doing this shit from like 8 years ago? And actually, I have to say, ShowMaker's having a beginning of the split like that. This is like, I mean, you have to go back a few years now, 3-4 years ago, when he actually was still really a stud and he could fucking get all the Player of the Game awards and all that jazz. So he was the MVP of the league, if you remember. So I don't hate the take. Obviously, right now, it's also the case, as we said, because of sample size. It's really hard to actually know who the best team and who the best player is. It's like super debatable. Basically, you're just going off eye test and what you think the adaptation to the current game is. And I'll just throw this out there. Name me any other person. You said Faker, Knight, these players, right? Look at their fucking teammates, mate. The other thing that's impressive about the D+ one is, right, I've always thought aiming's really good because of last summer, but everyone else thought he was just whatever he chucks in the playoffs, which is kind of true. Lucid guy was a rookie, so no one has hope for him. The Siwu, you have to actually basically know Challenger to know why this guy's like going to be sick, etc. And then we all meme on Beryl almost every fucking episode of this show. Like, we actually act like Beryl. Like, to me, he's like what... It's like a mental fucking analogy. But does anyone remember back in the Flintstones? In the Flintstones, there was that random character that was like a space alien that only Fred could see. And he had like a hat. And he just used to fly around and tell Fred something. Look it up. It's a real thing. He's like someone like that. It's like, who is this guy? Why? This doesn't make sense he's here. Because if you ever see Beryl on the one hand is mega confident that he has this crazy read on the meta at all times. He's wrong about half the time. But then when he's right, it's like, how did he get away with that again? And he just does it every year, bro. I don't know how. Like, in a way, he's like fucking evil Keire or something. Like, he has his own meta, but it's like, I don't know if anyone should even play that. It's like science that's too far gone. It's some Lovecraftian shit.
Career,
yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah.
To even be around him is Lovecraftian. It makes you go mad too and get warped into some shit like fucking pure chick or something like that. You just, you lose your mind after that. You can't. But I'll tell you what, when it works, it works. And if people tell me, they always have, that he's the shot caller, bro, I can't lie. Even that dog shit KT roster, even this one now, every team he's in does actually develop some form of weird macro. Even if it's not good, even if the players aren't good, it sort of works. So I actually think, you look down the roster, where's all the help for ShowMaker? Like, these aren't studs. Nobody, by the way, was predicting this team could be a challenger for the LCK. So, yeah, if you build it up, I don't hate it. I'm with you, though, Zaboutine. I do think I used to do the same thing when I was young and naive myself. We have the same thing in Counter-Strike, which is, even if you had the best stats in the world at like 2 tournaments over a month, you don't actually get to be the best player in the world. Because you're right, you extend the tail of that out. And I would say it's more like a 3-month window of proper competition, you know, get like a bunch of matches in, repeatedly short. Because the problem is otherwise, look, it's good for a hot take, sure. But if you keep crowning people best player in the world every 3 weeks or something, like the year's going to get really fucking silly, isn't it? Like it's going to be like a power ranking of who like next week they'll be the 7th best, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's no sign of consistency. Because I'm with you as well. So far, probably all the haters hoped we were going to say Faker was the best because actually has looked pretty fucking good these first few weeks. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I was like, I actually think Faker's been fucking unreal by the way they started this season.
Here's the thing, though. I think that is like one. They always claim he has those hand injuries. I'm sure you fucking rest it in the off-season. That's the time you got to show him. So if anything, surely like people have injuries in football, you're going to start the season great. The question is where you're going to be in like fucking May or something. You know, when you've been grinding all those games.
Yeah, I mean, there's just I don't think like I mean it's a weird part of the year because laning plays such a poor role right now in the game. There's really no win lane win game at all. You can bail out outside of every single matchup. That's what actually one of my takes, which is while increasing the amount of things to do, the game hasn't been as bad to watch in a long time. The only good part is of this split has been the Fearless, which increased champion diversity. But the way Riot has like baked their season with this
Mate, the Attican is arse. It's garbage, isn't it? It's just garbage. The teams don't even know what they're doing.
No, because like the problem is there is always something to get if you don't want to fight. So one team is getting the grubs, the other one's getting the Drake. People say 6 grubs is like super strong, but usually it's because like everybody's trying to contest the grubs and one team is just like suiciding at grubs and then nothing happens for the rest of the game. But if you look at it realistically, you can bail out of bad matchups through swap lane. You can send your dual lane mid as soon as your matchup mid is bad. You can kill every single volatile matchup by swap laning as well. You can cross map every single objective, and you can play pretty much split side for like 25 minutes straight until something happens. And then there is this kind of weird big fight around Atakan that leads into Baron, or people just like, just running under turret and trying to like cheat tempo with the buff. But I think in terms of individual expression and strategic expression, this is one of the worst seasons I've seen in my life.
By the way, one last detail about ShowMaker that is also gangster, because a lot of people won't know this detail. It's so stupid. Do you know that he obviously has the iconic glasses? Last year in like November, he actually had like the surgery, so he doesn't need glasses. So he just wears them like those fucking hipsters because it's just his image. He just doesn't give a fuck. Like, that's actually, in a stupid way, I get it. That is branding, mate. That is actually pretty good. I like that. I think it's stupid, but it's good. Right, do you have a take, Zaboutine?
I mean, that was my take, that the game was in a
state,
yes, but if you want one that's spicier, I can. I have a very spicy one to start with.
Hit me.
Okay. So the gap. Okay, I'm gonna read it like a fan on a YouTube video or Reddit.
Okay.
The gap is so huge between EU and NA that Jojopyun, the best prospect of the region and mid, has played like a bottom 3 in the whole split in LEC.
A bottom what? What number did you say?
Bottom 3. Bottom 3 mid laner in the whole.
Oh, bottom 3.
Yeah.
Movistar fans, get him. Get him.
Are you ready to learn Spanish, Zaboutine? You ready for another?
Go on, give us some reasons. You got to have some. What is it you've seen about his play that hasn't impressed you? What's he lacking?
I mean, he got solo killed by a guy, by Camilo, straight out of Division 2 LFL from France. That's played a week ago. Has fumbled multiple times in lane. Avoided solo kill to the extreme. Has had like I think 4 lane prio. I think the first game, his Azir game, was good against Fnatic. And then I think that's it. I haven't seen, like, from the eye test, I watch every single LEC game because I co-stream. So I have to get kind of in the nitty-gritty of watching every single player. After watching all the games, I think that MKOI, like, they would play Frescovi. It would be slightly worse in lane, but I think the result of the games would be like
there's the hot
almost
take.
equivalent.
If they played Frescovi, they'd have had the same equivalent. Okay. Come on, Keire, what do you think?
But, okay. He's actually, like, lucky that like Larson's a dog right now and Rika's
Rika.
He's always just a dog, yeah, okay? So he's lucky because he'd actually be last if those two, like, if Larson was human, okay, he would be above him, and then Rika would then just exist, so he'd be like the worst or the second worst, okay? But he's a little bit unlucky because, you know, I mean, he's got a very good version of Humanoid playing this version, so, you know, it's checks and balances. I actually agree. This guy is so little of why his team actually wins any game of League of Legends. He might actually have, like, the lowest, like, you know what I mean, like, score of, like, actual, like, positive EV on his team's actual wins. Like, mate, Merwin has been fucking unbelievable on this team. Super's been really, really, really good. And Elyoya and Alvaro are just running, like, most of the games are running like a macro school on most of the teams that they're, like, playing against, okay? And then Jojopyun has, like, this amazing platform to play from, which is what makes it more criminal, because the other teams are so flawed. Like, Rika plays on SK Gaming with, like, 4 other terrible players, well, plus Rahel, but he's an ADC, right? Whereas, like, Jojo's got this amazing platform. He's got the people, like, shown to skirmishes and, like, good positions. He's got, like, Warden. He has all this information. And then he makes, like, the most boneheaded, like, terrible, misguided, like, plays. So in some ways, it's actually, like, worse, because his job should be, like, technically easier, and he's supposed to be a much, much more skilled player. So, put it this way, Zaba, it's not looking good. It's not. I used to carry the fucking flag for NA, by the way, because I used to tell all the weeks in EU, right, okay, that, like, Double Lift was, like, actually probably better than most of the, like, ADC players in the region. It just, because he's in NA all the time, he just stat padding. It's not worked that well for Jojo. Like, he came, he talked about a bunch of shit, he got shat on. Like, I'm actually surprised how bad he is.
Right, by the way, in terms of this take, I will say there's one detail, which is I believe there was some story where that, like, Ari game, he, like, clicked the button that was the DPI thing on his mouse, people claiming it, like, made his mouse accidentally go to... The only problem with that story is, that's not a bad story, but I'm going to now do the Thorin thing where I entertainingly wreck you using what you've just revealed as a piece of vulnerable information. So that sounds like a decent excuse, right? Except, why are all of Jojopyun's excuses like excuses you gave when you were in high school? It's like, oh, sorry, I was late. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, fuck, I need the toilet, miss. Like, oh, my fucking, I clicked the button in the mouse. Like, first of all, like, bro, you're pro gamer. Like, turn up on time. Actually check. By the way, I have a mouse where I had that button on that does the EPI. You can go to the fucking settings and disable it. Are you a noob? If you never played Quake or something, you never let a fucking button exist with a binder that you don't want. You go in and then you get that bound and you put it set it to nothing. You set it so it doesn't do anything when you click it. In fact, if you want then, by the way, if you want those ADHD people, you can fucking click it all the time and all the piss out people when you're dead. Like, don't have it fucking... Why would you have a setting on your mouse that if you click it, accidentally makes the mouse, like, twice as fast? Like, that's the craziest idea I've ever... Yeah, it might be. That's the craziest idea ever. Like, that would be like if I had a rally car and then there was just, like a button right next to the steering thing, ejector seat. Like, oh shit, I pressed it on foot. Why would I ever even have that installed? I'm a rally driver. The last thing I want is to be fired out of my car. So, first of all, that doesn't fully count, even though I agree. If you ever saw him play Ari in NA, he's way better than that on Ari. That's not the real level, etc. But I'm sort of with you, because here's the problem. Koi, because I agree with you, all the rest of them looked dope. Because they actually out the gate, he didn't look that bad. Everyone thought, this is it. Like, you add his mechanics to Koi, fuck, maybe this is like a finals team. That died after week 1, by the way. Like, and ever since then, fucking hell, have they had a hard time with some of these games, mate. I mean, some of the ones they lost, like, could have been games they won, like, bloody hell. Like, and he is definitely one of the reasons why. This is the point I even made about some of the people like Camilo, actually, Zaboutine. I said, the reason why it's insane to me you even bring this guy into the league is you're taking him straight from, not LFL Division 2, and he's now playing, and you look at the actual mid laners. I made this point on Best Damn League Show. Bro, you might have to say, like, Larson's like the 7th or 8th best mid laner. If he's the 7th or 8th best mid laner, you're throwing this guy into this pool, he will drown. Like, that's insane to put someone on their first split like that. So, yeah, Jojo, what he didn't realise was this. He did that thing everyone does when they go to Korea. They go, oh, the boot camp's going to be so sick because I'm going to be playing the best players in the world. Yeah, and they're going to be playing you, bro. So, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say, you playing against fucking Knight, I think at the end of that, you get like 5% better and Knight just crushes you in every other game that you don't get better in. Like, that's going to be really hard. So what he's learning is, like, welcome, Jojo. You're now actually playing League of Legends, mate. Before you were playing, I've always said this, League of Legends in mid lane and NA is Fisher Price fucking League of Legends. Half the time they don't even try and solo kill each other. They don't even fucking sometimes punish the wave. They just farm up for the items, and it's nearly always just like jungle interactions as far as I can tell that make the game happen. And then you just get to team fight every game. And every game you got CS and items and you team fight. Mate, that's not League of Legends. That's like some fucked up, I don't know, like almost like a pickup game or something. You play in Europe, mate. You are getting those players. I used to love it when Jankos used to do this. I used to go back over VODs and actually try and find, especially when like ProView chicks, I used to try and see where the fog of war was. And holy shit, some of these best supports and jungles in Europe are demons at finding like the edge of that fog of war and going past it. And you think like, I've got that covered, I've got a ward there. And then they're just on you, mate. They just straight flash on you, you're dead. And you're like, fuck. Or you do that thing where in NA you do the flash. Oh, phew. So they're coming straight back if you just flashed. What are you talking about? They might not even leave. They might just stay in that brush. You walk all the way up to the top and they just kill you immediately. Like, they're so ruthless in this league. So what he's finding out is there's a reason why everyone in EU, privately and publicly, talks shit on each other 24/7. Because this is actually competition. They kill us in this region. And so, yeah, so far, by the way, he's actually, I thought before, he could be pretty good if he applies. He's sort of sinking a bit, mate. He's like, you know, he's just under the water a bit here. So he needs to be rescued, because I'm with you, actually. I actually think if he just played, just even the level people expected, nothing crazy. You don't have to be like the second best player. If he just played like the fourth best mid, bro, I don't even know if they'd have lost. They'd have already lost to like Fnatic or something. Like, who else could beat them right now? Like, I think they'd have a chance against G2. Like, that team should be better. So I'm sort of with you. He's the big name signing, but at the moment, yeah, he's lagging back a bit. I don't know if it's bottom three. That is wild, but then again, though, to be fair,
right?
So who we put in bottom three?
So for me, the bottom three, the worst mid laner, I think, is Reeker, because he's trying hard, but he doesn't succeed. The second is Larsen. He's not trying hard, therefore he doesn't succeed. And then, who else do you want to put? Camilo? He's a rookie, first experience from Division 2, solo killed Jojopyun in 1v1. I cannot put him below someone that he solo killed, right? So Camilo's above. Then you have Chayek. I think he had good games with Vitality.
He had a couple of carry games, yeah.
Caps, Nuke, Humanoid.
No, you're right, yeah.
Vladi are outside, right? They're like outside of the scope. You have Jackie's that underperforms, but still had pretty good games when he had his champions. I don't think he's playing amazing. And then who else? Like, I probably missed one guy. Humanoid's like about among the top. Like, there is really no mid laner. So you look at like, right, so like Caps, Nuke, Humanoid, Vladi, Jackie's, you are at 5, Chayek 6. Then it's Camilo versus Jojo. I put Camilo above. Oh, Jojo is 7th.
Right, here we go. Go on.
By the way, it gets even worse because you actually look at who his good games are against. It's like the last game of the season against eliminated Rogue on Corky, Larsen, who's like below him. And then it's the Quay game versus Reeker. And then the game at the very start of the season, the very first game of the season against Humanoid. Those are his 3 best games. And then everything else is like...
By the way, that's also the part that people didn't mention. Because of all the upsets and the fact that, like, oh my God, Giant X is like a top team now and all that shit from week 1. People haven't noticed, the top 4 to 5, really good. You know, maybe one other can join that. Dude, the bottom teams are fucking trash. Like, actually, if you just farm that... Like, I saw that guy from Vitality was chatting shit because they, like, finished 5-4. It's like, you beat GX and all the shitters. Like, what are you talking about? Like, mate, you can't talk shit to G2 and Fnatic yet. What are you talking about? Like, first of all, they're beating good teams. They are good teams. You just beat the bad teams. So, I don't get that angle. No, I just don't get it at all, mate. Right, let's go to my hot take. So, my hot take... If you think that ShowMaker one was bad, I'm going to do something even worse, Zaboutine. So I already had it in the past that Fnatic would win a split. Fuck that, right? Fnatic will be the best Western team at Worlds. And in the Swiss, they're going to win a BO3 over an Asian team, an LPL or an LCK team. Now, the reason why, I'll just let that marinate. Sounds mental, doesn't it? Sounds ridiculous. Like the idea Oscarin, for example, is going to win a best of 3 against like an LCK. It's mental. It couldn't happen, right? You think to yourself, like, who even knows if all the Sinjis get that? Here's why I actually think. Because the part that we never could know until they actually played together is, holy fuck, his entire life, Razork has been waiting for Mickey X to enter the server on his team, bro. Like, I thought it was just going to be Upset. It's going to be really good. You know, like, let's see, Razork does his thing as usual. Mickey will just play with Upset. No, bro. The way they are playing together, Holy shit, they are good together. And those are two players, by the way, that I think are generational talents at their position. I already think Mickey at his prime absolutely can go head-to-head with the best Koreans. I already thought Razork last year was cracked out. If anything, I actually think his confidence got sapped because every final, every national event, everyone was just looking at him like, do it all then. Go and do it all yourself. So you put them together. Mate, if you're my mate upset, this is the dream split. You're just doing that shit where they're going in like demons fucking causing all that problem in the team fight. You're just on the outside shooting everyone like old school fucking ADC. It's perfect. It's so sick, the combo. Then you add in, actually on this team, think about it, the solo laners, which people think are a bit like flawed or they have like idiosyncratic issues, it doesn't even matter on this team, mate. It just doesn't fucking matter. Like in the team fights, like all longer one of them turns up, you can get it done. And actually, I'm sort of with you. Even though I thought people like Humanoid would get shown up by Jojopyun, it actually looks like it sort of kicked him up his arse and made him a little bit better, actually. He's having a few better games. He's had a couple of big carry ones, actually. So I actually think the jungle support duo is going to be one of the best we've ever had in the West. I think it's fucking straight fire. Like, I think you actually have to go back to like Jankos, Miskiex, these sorts of players to get that. Because normally, remember, even Hillesang had like Broxer, you know what I mean? You always have like one that's not as good with the other. When you have the demons, like when you did have Mickiex and Jankos, and now you have Razork and Mickiex, they're just fucking too good, mate. So I think that alone, obviously the take's mental, but they're gonna be the best team in the West at Worlds, and they're gonna win a best of 3 over an Asian team. There you go.
B, I can't hold hands on you because I have seen the condition certain players in Fnatic have went to Worlds. Like, for example, I have seen Humanoid at last Worlds. I saw Oscarinen and Razork run down the previous Worlds to that, and it can be painful. Like, no, like, Mickey X is a very, very good player. Upset is a very, very good player, but they are but humans, and they are at the mercy of some of the prime inting gods of Western League of Legends.
Okay.
However, I will say, I actually think Oscarinen is one of the factors that lets you beat elite Chinese Asian teams. By the way, Oscarinen is like one of the only people like I've actually seen who quite consistently plays like rather well. Like, he's got like a disease in his brain that he's not actually had this split where he would just death push every lane. But he had games where he could like beat 369 and stuff and like give them the business. Like, Fnatic were a super flawed team last year, but they were close to winning BO3s against the top teams.
Yeah.
I actually think the thing is, I'll hold hands on you with Thorin. If they manage to get up to the top of the bracket, so they get like 3 shots at it, right? I think they can do it. But if they end up in the arse end of the bracket and they get the one-shot elimination games at it, I think that could be really, really, really hard because, man, sometimes those ones are super, super stacked. It's just one of the major problems with Swiss. I do think they could beat like a bunch of the Asian and Korean teams. By the way, I think they could beat a bunch of them like right now. No joke. I actually think they could beat one of the top 4 of LPL and one of the top 4 of Korea. Like, not maybe that consistently, but I think they could beat them. Like, given their chances. Which the previous lineup had that fake reputation, but I remember I went and actually counted it, and it never happened. Like, if they went something like fucking like 1 in 37 or like 2 in 37 or something against Asian teams. And I don't actually think this team will have that rep. Like, I'm doing it again. I'm buying like Fnatic stock every week, and the dividends are going ching, 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 and I keep buying more and more. I've got all my Oscarinen A+ stock. I've got all my Razork stock. I've said crazy shit that like Razork's better than most of the Asian like junglers. Like, I hope to God I get to cash in, but I've still got that darkness in my heart. I've still got that doubt for it. Worlds is so far away, man. It's such a dark timeline.
It's a complex discussion around Fnatic, to be frank, because I had my fears. You remember the last episode I said that they wouldn't make Worlds, and I think that from watching the games, I think it's the first time I see a jungle support at Fnatic since probably 2018. Like, it's been ages since I haven't seen like a consistent jungle support duo that actually plays the game. So a lot of my fears towards this team has been removed, and I think that's probably like by far the best team in EU. What I have fears for Fnatic on the long run, because you're going a very long shot, Thorin, right? You're saying Worlds,
yeah,
and the year is very long. I think right now we are playing perfectly in the play style of Razork, and it's engaged supports, which I think is very, very good for Fnatic because both of their best players can actually express themselves. And it's crazy as a side note, how Mickey X, while being washed up last year, is still like making any team that he goes to, like even Excel was good with Mickey X. The only question I have is like the stamina. There's a lot of very experienced players in this roster. Oscar, I don't know how his health is, if like he can, like consistently play at a very high volume. But the better you are, the more games you play, the more tired you are. I think one of the crazy part about like the legacy of the last T1 team that like won pretty much everything at Worlds was how good they peak during the year. But you can, if you watch the games of LCK, you saw that they kind of spared themselves as well sometimes, not being at their best. I think Fnatic, to be that team, needs to play at their like full volume of training, like full intensity throughout the whole year, and know that we have 3 international tournaments and very little amount of breaks with a lot of like very short deadlines on which you can be eliminated pretty early outside of spring splits. If they go to like the first tournament and then they go to MSI, I have a very high doubt that a player such as Mickey X will play the whole year at the level he's playing in. And if he starts not playing as well and plays like he was doing, for instance, at G2 last summer, I think there is a lot of players that get frustrated in Fnatic. I think there are not players that would be like, Caps is a pretty chill guy. He's like, oh, you can't do it, I'll do it myself. It's okay. I'll just give me a Kelly and wins the game. I don't know how it's going to work with like Upset and Humanoid if like Mickey X and Razork don't play as well. So I'd say, I think they're going to be the best team this year. But I think that we have a high chance of seeing the worst of Fnatic in summer splits. So it kind of aligns with the take I had. Okay. Even though like a lot of my fears got alleviated, I still think that they might be at their worst at the moment it counts the most. Because it would be so Fnatic to do so.
I'll tell you guys where my heart is truly at. I was actually sitting like at this desk, like contemplating, like for like a couple other like hot takes. I've been sitting here, I've been on shows with Rector. I was like, do I go on here and just say that Fnatic are going to win all 3 splits? Because that's where my heart is at right now. I'm like, do I come on and say that? I was like, no, I know these fuckers like too well. I can't say that. I can't do it. I just can't do it because I've given them so much of my soul. Every single time, like all the factors told me they should beat G2. And then I watch those finals and I'm just like, no, fuck. Like, but mate, I don't have to do that anymore. There's revelation is there, salvation has come, the king of KDA has arrived. You know what I mean? It's good. All is good.
I put it this way, I'll even throw this out there. One of the reasons I'll give you a little pushback on the thing you said about what happened at the end in G2. Because, bro, I think the most telling thing Mickey X said that people didn't notice was when he did that interview with the Armored guy from Sheep Esports. And he basically said that at the end of his time in G2, once they'd sort of decided behind the scenes he wasn't going to get to stay, even though that fucking guy on my show goes, he left. Yes, I understand, dickhead, what the official terminology is. I'm talking about what really happened, difference between you making shit up for perception and what really happened. So when he actually left the team, spoiler, he was quite clearly, even though this is in the interview where his team's leading the LEC, it's actually quite clear he had like a wistfulness to his speech to Zaboutine. Like he clearly actually sort of wished he was still in the team because he doesn't know yet if this Fnatic's going to be cracked out, whereas that was in theory the best players in Europe. Like he wanted a third go around. Maybe he stays and Skewmon joins or something. So to him, I think he actually thinks he was badly done by, and he basically said that at the end he could just sense that they weren't like trusting him anymore, etc. Right? I can tell you, think about how people like Mickey X and Hylissang play. Bro, if you don't trust these people, they are not only going to lose, they're going to look really shit. They're going to go in and then they're just going to fucking get left hanging out there in the middle of nowhere. No one engages with them. That's how you make those players look like stupid idiots. You make it, oh, look, he's hinting at that. Well, here's the problem. If Hans Sama had already decided, I don't want this guy, I want, in this case, Lavrov, apparently, mate, you can't have like a relationship where that guy, so Hans Sammer's that actual fucking Getty Images meme of like Mickey X next to him and he's looking back at fucking Lavrov, like that one, like, give me a fucking, you got Mickey X there, you fool, what are you doing? So all I'll say is I do think when people have done that to him in the past, that is one of the problems. By the way, where's the last time Mickey X looked bad? Oh, playing with Reckless when Reckless was going off the boil and that was all going to shit. So I'll just say this, flip it the other way around. Think of some of the ADCs that he's played with. So he played with Perks. Perk looked fucking unbelievable, by the way. Then he played later, now with Hans Sama. Hans Sama never looked better in his entire career, and he already played with a load of legends at support, by the way. Now he's playing with Upset, and Upset's right back to peak form. Bro, I hope people learn this, and I love Upset, but I'd say it to his face, mate. Listen, we've done this thing where because traditionally, like in that equation, like, I guess Mickey X is like a fucking, like, Trent Alexander-Arnold, like he's like a defender that can pass the ball really well, but he's giving it to the striker, and the striker scores the goals, and that's the ADC, right? No, boys. In this particular case, this is like the star of your bot lane is the fucking support player. He can do shit when unlocked on the map none of the others can do. You need to understand in that equation, it's like you're in a band where you're like a pretty good guitarist or lead singer, but the bassist is the best in the world, mate. Well, how he puts the rhythm, you play to him. You do what he wants. You stop catering to the other guy, making him Robin. He's Batman, you're Robin. Or whatever. You could eat Superman, you're Batman, then you can still be pretty good. Robin's shit at you. Who wants to be Robin? All right, you can be Batman and he's Superman. There you go. But play to him, because I think in teams, at the end, I'll just tell you, I actually know a bit about Mickey X. He's also someone, by the way, who's a very accommodating player. Like, he will just play whatever style his ADC wants, and he will do what the ADC asks of him. So he's not the guy where, like, if he does something, I believe he's doing something off the plan. So I think he also was hung out to dry on that one. So, well, that'll remain to be seen, though. That'll remain to be seen. Because I tell you what, still isn't there for me with G2, so we'll see. We'll see when that gets back there. We'll see that.
Therefore, and that's bonkers. I've just thought about it. The only ADC that didn't peak with Mickey X is at Kobe. Basically, Kobe's the only guy that was better away from Mickey X.
And that was when famously, I think they were both very quiet or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like Caps peaked like a motherfucker, won a split just for banter. Hands, fucking... Patrick was the best he'd ever been. That was actually the year. Everyone was saying Patrick's like a top 3 ADC. They have that unbelievable...
There's only one thing connecting them, the thread of Mickey X, motherfucker. Exactly.
Yeah, mate, it's actually kind of impressive.
Yeah, he's dope.
Yeah,
he's low-key like Core JJ of our region, but we just don't give him any of the credit and go give the MVP to the other guy. Like, at least they gave all Core JJ all the fucking MVPs. Like, he did get that status. Okay. Is there another take?
Yeah. Rogue is competing with Origen as one of the worst trajectory of orgs in the history of EU.
Okay.
Because if you look at Origen, it's the rise. It's these guys that like quit Fnatic and decide to build a little back from Challenger, and back when Challenger was nothing. Qualified to the EU LCS, went into the undefeated Fnatic, lose 3-2 with the broken-ass GP played by SOAS, went to Worlds, eventually losing semi-final against SKT, right? Which was, I mean, probably the most dominant team in the history of Worlds. And then ends up with XPK playing ADC with graphic designer is my passion. All these things. I mean, Origen is like a crazy history. I think, I mean, it's probably for you, the historian, but there is probably like a documentary to do about Origen. Sure. Got bout later, went last place with a super team, right? Like really went to ashes. And when you look at Rogue, and then you think about this final in Malmö, the first final won by Odo Amne, beating G2 3-0, qualifying to Worlds into the, I mean, I don't want to be, you know, they're still in activity, so I don't want to use bad words with them, but if the current state they're in, I think there is a competition between Rogue and Origen as like the biggest downfall of EU organizations, whether it's choices, direction, sports choices, fan base. It's an absolute crumble on the Rogue side.
By the way, when you say a documentary, like obviously it's not one of those ones where it's like, you know, just fucking, it's going to be like one of those like VH1 behind the music. Then after the #1 single, the drugs came and there was too many women and parties, and then like, you know, they're all fucking in rehab and all the albums are shit, and you know, no one's buying the tour. By the way, also I'm with you. Bearing in mind, not only did they win a split, by the way, over like fucking prime caps as well. They used to have all those splits where they were #1 in the league and had like 14, 13 games won. And at the end, I think there was like me and Keire were fans of theirs. That's about it. And that's just because of Arsene. Like, I agree. Somehow, that team's like almost a lesson in how not to actually turn like results in the server into actual fan base, because they don't have any, bro. Like, I've never seen anyone wear a Rogue hoodie. I've never seen... They've been to Worlds loads of times as well, boys. Like, it's actually crazy how many finals they win. It is nuts. Like, you think about it, right? Even people before even they became the Spanish one, even Mad Lions had more fans than that, you know, and had like a base. Oh, it's crazy. It is nuts. Go on, Keire.
Right, okay. So I agree with it, but I'm going to just add to it. They are actually in, like... So, the problem is like, the expectations. There is only one other team that you can join to that pantheon, and it's the Alliance/Elements crew. Okay. Where they won the split in 2014 with Froggen, and then, like, a couple of years later, they had, like, the worst team in, like... No, literally the next again year. Yeah. They had the worst team in Europe, and were getting, like, relegated. Yep. So, like, only, like... Only those... Like, they're, like, the triumvirate of dog shit. Like, they really, really, really are. It's the peaks of like emotional like expression that really think, because there's some like orgs that are like they're bad, but they're just like generationally bad, or like they're just generationally underwhelming, like Vitality. Like Vitality like spews and spends like a shit ton of money, but they've never actually like hit the peak, and so like, you know what I mean, they've never actually like got there for like for the crash landing to happen.
At least they have fans. At least they have some fans. You can see, like, if you look in the arena, you see people with yellow t-shirt. You wonder why, but they have the yellow t-shirt. They bought the jersey. Like, I've never seen someone wear a rogue t-shirt. Even they won, nobody did.
And the other thing is the only other contenders would be like, you know, the Moscow 5 / Gambit, but that's like geopolitical fucking shit that happens, so it barely counts. Like, Rogue isn't literally like the problem that like fucking a country's fucking them over. No, they're just the most mismanaged fucking shithousery shitpot place on planet Earth. Like, it's like they actually play, and they're playing with no they're playing with the no relegations, like buy-in monopoly shit. They've all got the monopoly money, the American investiture, and they still fuck it up. Like, they literally got all the rules made as easy as possible for them, and they still fucked it up. They're actually impressive. I actually think they're the worst. Zaboutine, actually forgetting, they are actually the worst.
By the way, I did promise this on Summoning Insight, where I had this like wicked sort of rant where I even pretended to be Wolverine, so that'll already interest you there, Zaboutine. Look it up. You'll find the timestamp probably in the comment section where everyone's telling me I'm more like usual. Like just our lovely fans. Keep buying all the products for dickheads. But basically, I did promise on there that I'm going to take down that Fly guy who was their like general manager, a guy who's been around a long time. So don't worry. Essentially, if people are thinking from the outside, well, what the fuck, how's this happened? I'll have some answers for that of like why they've been mismanaged and some of the things that might have happened. So that's forthcoming. Right, I've got a take for you boys. This is a good one because, like, it's not, sadly, it's not like the old days where I used to wreck TSM and then I would, like, TSM was the original Carmi Corp fans. You'd have a million people in your mentions, you know, who are you? Shut up. Oh, why are you saying that? You're just jealous of Reggie and Lena, like all that shit back in the day. Like, sadly, NA is dead. I mean, I always keep saying there isn't even LCS. It's LTA North. Like, fucking hell, holy shit, bro. So nowadays, no one really gives a fuck. But you know what? We pretend to for all time's sake. Like, for example, when Team Liquid did good at that MSI, you go, all right, I guess I'll tune in for Team Liquid Cloud9, see if they're any good. So obviously, after how FlyQuest went, right? You know the Americans, you got to let them have their moment. When they have a bit of success, they'll tell you. They'll let you fucking know. They'll be doing skywriting for coming fucking 8th at a tournament. Like, they're giving out fucking medals for almost winning matches. Like, they're fucking out. They're off the reservation, Americans. You know how they are. So when they do that, right, they always manage to convince themselves that if their team places above a European team, now they don't even have to play us, boys. If they just place above us by having a better draw, they have to go, all right, we're back in charge. I guess we're the best team in the world. And what I love is it doesn't even last half a year. So I think of the last 2 times they did this, boys. So you go back to that NRG team where they were like, won the fucking split out of nowhere. Sounds familiar, this. Then they went to Worlds. They beat G2. By the way, they clapped them. That was fucking sick, that first game. Clapped them. But they got the easy draw. Then they went up and got beaten easily by Weibo. But then they got to go home and go, guess all you other teams need a few lessons in how to make top 8 at Worlds. It's like, yeah, we're all aware getting an insanely lucky draw helps. We just can't do that by default. Like, that's luck. So then they go home. And if you remember, bro, they didn't even make it through the next split. They were just on their arse immediately, even though onto paper they made like an upgrade of like they fucking brought in like Hui for Ig now. It's like a better player. So it just failed. So you just want to say to them, like, were you really that good? Wasn't it just sort of like a mixture of luck and like 2 good weeks or something? So same thing with this team FlyQuest. Bro, they really talk like they won that Gen G series. Like, you would believe they did. By the way, I'll just say this. Gen G looked ass against T1 in the next series. So I don't know what you're hoping for. You needed Gen D to crush T1 and win Worlds. Then it looks sick. It looks trash now, by the way. We all saw how the Hens played in that next one. So when they come back now, listen, I was all with you, Bwipo. I was riding on the fucking Bwipo wagon again. I don't know how. I fell off it years ago. But I actually thought, come on. You know what? That trash talk is legit as fuck. He came in that studio and he was telling them all, like, I see fucking Shopify or whatever. You're just going to let us have our picks from Worlds that we've just, like, revolutionised the meta on. Fucking idiots. Like, why don't you scrim us and learn from us and realise you can't give us those champions? Bwipo, mate, that lasted a week. Like, a week later, you did get your ass handed to you on those picks. So already, the whole thing of like, well, my time to be the big boss, that's not even real. So here's the hot take. All these NA fucking runs at Worlds are just fucking flukes. They're just like 2 weeks that was good, or you hit one good meta, or one player overperformed. And the reason why I say that is, there's a perfect quote. People say it's misattributed, but whatever. It's just a great quote, isn't it? It's that one that goes, they claim it was Aristotle. It's like excellence is not an action, it is a habit, or something like that, right? And the idea is, just because you had one amazing game doesn't make you amazing. What makes you amazing is you play 10 games, you have 7 amazing games. It's consistency that makes you amazing. So here's the thing. You might want to talk trash on G2, but I'll tell you what, G2 has been way more like competitive at the MSIs. They're still good at the Worlds. That roster stayed together for 2 years and actually had something of like a reasonable level of form, whether they got the placings or not. None of these NA teams have done it. By the way, in the middle, I didn't even skip. I skipped in the middle where Team Liquid tried to tell us they were the best. Like they won one split coming from lower bracket. This is a fucking, he keeps repeating the numbers, Mason, the numbers. Like fucking, you don't even win your own splits dominant fashion, you dumb fucks. So you don't even win the LCS in dominant fashion. Then they went MSI. Hey, we almost beat T1. First of all, G2 did almost beating T1 better and still also didn't beat T1. And then secondly, you went to EWC. We almost beat them at that as well. Yeah, no one gives a shit, man. That's when T1 was at their worst. So all these teams are just living off like the 2 weeks that are awesome when everything comes together, everything looks good. They have a factor. FlyQuest, it was the picks. Team Liquid, it was the macro. NRG, it was, I don't know, getting a nice draw.
Inspired.
It was yeah. No, it wasn't inspired. That was on FlyQuest, whatever. NRG was Soaz just fucking walking into Dorkla's body and then somehow like out fucking laning someone. I don't know who it would be at this point in time. Who the fuck cares? It's the Shy. There you go, whatever. And then, yeah, that's all it was. So it was a fluke. It was all flukes. Now, by the way, I understand. Listen, I've been around the league long enough. Obviously, this is the most obvious heel angle of all time in League of Legends wrestling. European guy with a British accent at that tells North Americans, you're all flukes and lucky and you're not even good. Yeah, I get it. It's not really a revolutionary take, but I think it's true. I think all these are flukes. This isn't the old days where you actually had real teams, many that were like, you know, they're solid rosters. They're going to be good. They'll be like minimum top 2 in their region. They're going to go to like Cloud9 back in the day. Even some of the TSM lineups, even if they never made it look like they could be good. This is fucking nonsense, boys. It's nothing. It's all fanfare.
Hey, it's like they got a fucking cash, like a interest-based like ISA of all the years they were unlucky with the double F Bjergsen like lineups and the BO1s, right? Okay, and they fucking started depositing money into it, and then by the time it came round, right, double F and Bjergsen fucking fucked off and retired, but forgot the fucking account number, and then the other guys went, holy shit, there's like a fucking gazillion dollars in this account. It's like, like, time to spend it. Let's get the fucking 3 years of consecutive easy draws like possible, and then just declare ourselves the best. It's like, did you beat anybody? No. It's like, fucking hell, at least G2 had the decency to actually beat TES. At the time, second best LPL team, and who had just taken the upper bracket Gen G team to 5 games. And almost like beat them, made them all like look unbelievably competitive. How did G2 doing that? It was actually scourged earth. It was like watching Attila the Hun take out the Western Roman Empire. What have you done? Played them close, mate. There's a fucking line in Western teams that have played fucking. Mate, I can go back all the way to 2001, and all I hear from Western players, I tell you what, I played that all-time great like Korean really, really close. I mean, mate, they were fluky. And here's the thing, I would say the same about G2, by the way. Like, I would say the same about G2 if they were fluking it. But actually, the thing is like, they got quite famously unlucky if you go look at what they, like, drew. Like, and that is just the nature of it. Now, it doesn't change history, but you know, you can analyse history with your fucking eyes. So, I don't know why they always, like fucking cry, like, bitches. Like, just accept the fact that, like, that is just how it worked out.
I mean, I don't understand what you guys are talking about, because I'm looking at the players playing in LTR right now, and I can't really see like North American players at all.
It's true.
I see Cloud9. It's 2 Koreans, 1 European. Coach is Korean.
I do like the way they also get the Koreans you've just never heard of as well. It's like the ones you've never heard of in your life. I know.
FlyQuest is a European top, European jungle, Korean mid laner.
European coaches.
The coaching staff is both European. 100 Thieves as an NA player, because FBI and LA are like Oceania, River and Quaid are Korean. So I don't really see like this improvement of the NA region. Like very few teams have actually. The only one saving grace was the Energy team that actually had I would say a little bit more of a NA DNA with like at least NA solo laners. But overall, I mean, it's always a fluke. Taking Worlds placements to try to gauge for the level of a region is bad no matter whether you say it's good or bad. Like when 105th doesn't qualify for outside of playing, or Energy makes it out of group, it's buff FLUKES because it's tournament setting. I mean, you come from Counter-Strike, you know that like there is one patch, shape of the moment, you land somewhere on the world, you have 2 weeks to prepare or 1 week to prepare, you go on stage, you miss your flash and people tell your region is washed. Yeah. That doesn't work. But on the flip side, it cannot be used to say that your region is better than another one. Like consistency in result is much more important. And as much as like G2 hasn't performed, I mean, I think the last BO3 that has been won by a Western team is the G2 versus T1, right? I don't think there is any other one at MSI last year. Is there any Western team that beats, at least in the BO3 setup, an Asian team in a series? Keire, I look at you because you usually...
T1 didn't, G2 didn't beat T1. And,
on BO3 they did. They did, and then they lost. They won the BO3, or am I crazy?
No. What are you thinking of?
They went to game 5 in the upper bracket, and then in the lower bracket they got beat 3-0.
Yes.
T1,
okay.
they went to game 5. Faker picked Ari into Junction.
So they beat TS, that's it. They beat TS, that's it.
Yeah, TS. Sorry about that. But I feel like the best results still like are on the EU side. Yeah. And I mean, the Jojopyun example is very good. It's like you take the best of your guys that are the only one that can get scout in EU. You just land here at your bottom 8. You know, it's like you're in a very very low stage of the league. I think the what I don't like about this whole NA banter thing is I think that NA is trying to wave their hand to make some noise, like streaming screams and bantering everyone and trying to give lessons to everyone. I think they should first look at like getting good and having consistent performance, as you said, like FlyQuest just being dominant locally. Just being locally dominant. Like you come back from Worlds, you had a very convincing roster. You run your roster back, and then you go online and you show your draft preferences and you say you should stream screams, but like that doesn't apply to you because everybody's very professional in your team and you shouldn't change anything and you get clapped by C9, which has then coming back as an ADC position after like kind of years of break, and you can't beat that locally. I think that's a very bad look for your region as a whole. And then you look at all the other teams. Like I've watched some of the games. It's like this is a 2 of 3 team region. Like I've watched Shopify play. I've watched like Dignitas play. I watched these guys play. This is level. Even in LFL, these teams wouldn't like be top tier in LFL. I think if you take most of the LTA North teams and they go in LFL, they will not be champion. I don't even think they make top 4. So I think
what is it with you, Zaboutine, and having the most nuclear fucking hot take, just like completely separate from everyone else?
I mean, just you look at the. Just look at the LFL. Just look at the level of these guys, and then compare them to these guys, or compare them of Show to Shopify. You're gonna see that like LFL is favorite. I'm not making that shit up. Like I watch both games of both leagues, and I can tell you like it's not great. So I feel like NA should find a way to create engagement without having to stream their screams, because it's gonna be detrimental. And I think Soaz was right on Twitter. Or try to tell the rest of the world how we should do our craft while being better over the time, and try to focus on generating like genuine and real endemic hype around their players and their league, and that'd be great for everyone. So I'm on your end, Thorin, with that.
I've got one last
Sorry
one.
for the hot take.
It's all good.
No, it's okay.
Last one, come on.
I've got one last one, okay? Cause I've prepped this one, because Thorin, this is actually like straight from Dota, right? Okay, and I don't think people are prepared from this, right? The like Arabian, like Middle East region is going to produce like top tier EU players. I'm like telling you like right now, like if you look at like the infrastructure and you look at like the investment, and if you actually like watch that tier 2 and like how quickly it's getting bottom, I'm telling you that region will actually produce like top tier like European talent eventually. Because no, everyone like doubted it for like so long, but it only took like a tiny amount, like one person in like in Dota to like change that entire region, and they've cranked out like 4 TI winners, like in 13 majors, or something like that.
Why do you keep saying the word European? What the fuck's that?
Because they can play, because they're on
EMEA.
tier 2.
Oh, you
EMEA.
mean because they count that as the region, right? Okay.
Yeah. So they count to, it's like Australia for
Oceania,
what do you call it? America, Oceania, yeah.
Right.
So I actually think like as long as like League of Legends doesn't fucking like collapse in and of itself in a random, I actually think there's going to be like top talent from that from that region in the LEC in like maybe like 2 years, like 2-3 years. You'll have like players from like Israel, Jordan. What do you call it? Egypt, Saudi Arabia, because there's a bunch of like cultural factors that people don't know about these things. First of all, there's like a massive like cyber gaming like middle class that like all go to like localized like cyber cafes, and so like they've got like a smaller version of like what the Russians and the Ukrainians and the Koreans obviously have, where people actually like meet and like these like types of places and play and like talk and stuff like that. Then they've got their own like localized region that like obviously huge amounts of money is being invested into by people like Nigma, an example, and they're pulling in like not the best talents, but like better talents, and it's how quickly like year to year, like a bunch, you'll know that, Zaboutine, like the German tier 2 system on average has probably gotten a bit worse like year to year. Like the Middle East region one is actually getting better, but it's getting better at like a rate that's like quite incredible, like I like pretty impressive. So I actually think in like 2 years you're going to have like a player in Europe, like possibly like a top 5, top 10 player in Europe is going to be from that region.
I mean, I'm on your end with that. I would say I watch I would say more minor esports, Rocket League and Tekken. Tekken, you know, you have the Pakistan that actually emerged as like the big rival for Korea, but Middle East is like the emerging region as well. And on Rocket League, France is kind of the Korea of Rocket League. Like we generate most of the best players in the world and best teams. And we just lost to KSA region in the nation World Cup this
Saudi
year.
Arabia for people.
I mean, 2024, right? Yeah. So the emergence of insane talents from this region has appeared way faster than I think everybody expected, because they caught up on South America, they caught up on North America, they caught up on Oceania, and what it was a minor region a few years ago, it became like super strong. That said, to challenge your point of view, I think that there is a big problem is to become better at League, you need a very dense solo queue. You can't really like train in a bubble. League of Legends is a weird game. That's why I think like NA has never become a super strong region, because I think it's a matter of density and talent. And that's why Korea, while being a small country, is able to produce that many good players. I think because of the ping, the inability to play consistently with good ping on the EU server, even if the Arabian League is getting better every year, and if you look, there is more and more prospect coming from Arabian leagues that like take slots in the LFL, Prime League, Polish League, and all these things. You see more and more talents, but it's definitely it's gonna be very hard for them to like. They're gonna need to kind of like breed the caps, you know. Generate a talent that leads the meta in a way that all kids look at this guy and start playing, you know, like at least this position. There is many games that are like started to be played in at least in Saudi Arabia, and I think that it's gonna be like a very dominant country in esports in the future. But for us, per League of Legends, I think it's way more it's way harder, because it's not just having the structure, otherwise NA would be good. It's having the density, and I don't know if they have the density for that.
I've got quite an interesting angle for you. So first of all, if you want to count that as the whole region, that Middle East region, actually in Counter-Strike, this is where we've already seen this with Israel. Israel actually has 5 players that are in the top 10 teams. Like, if you know, they're called like Exertion plays for Mouse, Heavy God plays for G2, Spinks now plays for Mouse, Nerds plays for Team Liquid, and Flames plays on Team Vitality. They're all players from Israel, and they're all skilled players, and they're all like, some of them are even some of the best in the world. And that is a scenario where you have to understand, if I go back in time like 3 years, there are no players from Israel. I couldn't even name you one. Like, I would never have seen one. In fact, in 1.6, there was like a team from there that could go like World Cyber Games. If you got them in your group, that was like a walkover. You just win that game easily. You didn't even fucking look up the demo. They're never going to win. So that aspect certainly does suggest you can just get this burgeoning talent. I'll give you an angle on how you could take what Zaboutine said and skip a bunch of steps and hyper accelerate it. There's two factors that are both esports factors, but they're not in League of Legends. So remember, the story went that Rogue was going to sell to Falcons, the team that in other games won the esports World Cup. They have loads of teams. They obviously have this mega well-paid team that's just got Nico in Counter-Strike, and they've shown they're going to spend money, right? It sounds to me like once Riot gradually does this, like, tiptoe towards Saudi Arabia. So initially they let them have the EWC. Now the rumour is Valorant's going to have like game changers there and a bunch of other things there. And eventually they're just going to keep having stuff there. And eventually they're going to do things like, Monty even thinks they might just take over production of like the fucking broadcast for LEC or something. All sorts of things because they've got so much money to offer. Well, one of the obvious things to do would let Falcons or something like that buy into the league, right? Get rid of a bad franchise. Maybe it's Rogue. Well, first of all, if Falcons exist, they have so much money that if there is talent, they can afford to take that talent and do what the secret in, say, Counter-Strike was for many years. In Counter-Strike, if your region is weak, like the Mongols is very good now in Counter-Strike from Mongolia, well, they can't practice teams in Mongolia. What you do is you just come and do a boot camp in Europe, and then you get like 2 weeks good practice, like we do for Korea for Worlds and League anyway, level your game up, and then go to the tournaments. Then, not only can they boot camp here, this is actually the part that people just haven't listened to the episodes of the Four Horsemen. I get that when you talk about business and things outside the game, people's eyes glaze over. There is a project, the guy who used to be like one of the top people at Team Liquid works for them, called Keire, and it is a fucking digital city that is going to be huge, and part of the agreement, supposedly, of all those teams in the Esports World Cup, like club program, is that in the future, in exchange for like stipends and stuff, they will eventually relocate some of their facilities to this city of Keire, and it's going to be more like you have to do like a minimum amount of like weeks of like boot camps and events, right? That would mean you could have a world where a bunch of top teams from the Western League, if they all come in, if you follow my thing, and Falcons is there, you could actually have tournaments that are held like EWC in Keire in the future, and everyone goes to Keire 2 weeks early, and boot camps there, and now all the local talent in their teams gets to scrim against them, and gets to actually suddenly have the dream of like Koreans coming to your region and play, except in this case it'll just be LEC, because that's all we're asking for. We're not asking for Korean talent, it's just LEC level talent. So that's not actually impossible. If you don't know, the Keire project is insanely ambitious. I remember finding out about it from this guy, Thix Nation, who used to work for Team Liquid, because I went there and I saw his pinned tweet like 2 years ago, and bro, his pinned tweet said, like, essentially sort of, if you're in esports, apply for a job, because we're hiring 100,000 people to the project. Like, I don't think people understand, like, their fucking ambition is out of this universe. And so you've only seen it in leagues drip in. We've seen it a little bit more in CS. In games like Dota, by the way, they're actually one of the best teams. In certain other games, they own the fucking thing. People don't know. Team Liquid came second in that Esports Club World Cup. I think they had like a third of the points of Falcons made. Falcons just have all the games. They've got all the smaller games. So I think it's inevitable if they want to dominate this aspect of the field. League of Legends isn't one you're going to sit just watching. It's the biggest game. You've got to be in that game. That's where you're actually going to prove that you're sick. So I think it's not implausible. Other factors outside of the game could actually cause this sort of accelerated growth. Because I'm with you, if you go really slow now, you basically have to just have like the analogy would be like the Mohamed Salah of fucking Saudi Arabia has to come along. Like, no one else is signing Egyptian players, but Mohamed Salah's fucking crack. You might not even need that. You might actually be able to just level the whole region up by bringing the best teams there. Good take.